intelligence brief designed to, well, cut through the noise. This is Deep Dive number 35. Today is Thursday, August 21st, 2025. It's that Friday Eve feeling, Optimism futures might be spiking, but here we believe in hedging that optimism with some real grounded intel. Our mission today: unpack yesterday's intelligence brief, that's Wednesday, August 20th, and pull out the key insights to help you stay truly informed.
Exactly. And let's dive straight into the overall mood from yesterday. The classification flags really set the scene. Our threat level remains moderate. Now, this is driven by multiple regional crises happening simultaneously. We're talking natural disasters, political friction. These things pose clear risks to, economic stability, human security. But crucially, there's no imminent large-scale conflict on the horizon. That's a key distinction, keeping it at moderate.
Right, that distinction's vital. So how solid is the intel we're digging into? How reliable is what you're about to hear?
Good question. For that, we look at the Admiralty Code. For this brief, it's B2. Think of B as generally credible sources, government statements, reputable media, and the 2 means moderate corroboration, so information is coming from multiple places. Now, some specific events, maybe like that reported Syrian raid or the Israeli settlement plans, might rely more on single sources for now. They need a bit more validation. But overall, the confidence level for the analysis is a 3 so, moderate confidence. Sources are generally reliable.
Understood. Moderate threat, B2 reliability, moderate confidence. So give us the BLUF, the bottom line up front, for August 20th. Okay, yesterday's global picture is really shaped by, well, several big forces acting at once. Climate-driven disasters hitting hard, lots of geopolitical maneuvering, some pretty significant labor disputes, especially in transport. And alongside all that, this undeniable technological momentum, particularly in AI and automation. It was a day that really underscored how interconnected everything is, challenges and opportunities side by side. Let's unpack one of the big North American stories from yesterday that shows this mix perfectly: the Air Canada flight attendant strike resolution. This was a major disruption, affected a lot of people.
Oh, absolutely. It was a 4-day strike, August 16th to 19th. It officially ended yesterday, the 20th, with a tentative agreement. That's key, it's tentative. The core issue, and this really struck a chord, was compensation for what the attendants called unpaid work. We're talking about pre-flight prep time, boarding duties, that sort of thing, plus demands for better scheduling.
And the ripple effect was pretty significant, right? Beyond just canceled flights.
It really was. Thousands of flights grounded. A huge impact on Air Canada's operations. Over 4,000 cabin crew were involved. And that directly hit, get this, over 250,000 passengers. Middle of summer, too. The financial hit, immediate. Air Canada actually had to withdraw its 2025 earnings guidance. That signals major uncertainty. And adding another layer, Canada's Employment Ministry. They've launched an investigation into these unpaid work practices across the airline industry, so potential regulatory changes coming.
Wow. That's huge. What was the public feeling? Did you get a sense from social media?
Yeah, looking at hearsay from places like X, public sentiment leaned heavily towards the flight attendants. Hashtags like #PayerCrew, #Air Canada strike were trending. Lots of solidarity. You saw a post from airline workers saying things like pre-flight duties or work. That message got through. There was definite support, even some viral memes comparing, those mystery delays people complain about to free labor, pointing fingers at corporate policy.
That focus on unpaid work.
Yeah.
It feels like part of a bigger conversation happening globally about labor rights. This, plus the ongoing Canada Post talks. It shows how these actions can really snarl up logistics, travel, critical sectors.
What's the correlation with market confidence, though? Are investors spooked?
Well, that's an interesting part. While these North American disruptions are very visible, and yeah, they could dampen consumer spending, especially if, say, the postal strike really bites into e-commerce. Analysts are still forecasting, for instance, modest gains in European markets. It suggests investors might be separating these regional labor issues from the bigger global economic picture. So actually, it's a surprisingly weak correlation right now between these strikes and overall European equity forecasts. They seem to view them as localized fights, not a global trend yet.
Okay. Shifting slightly, but still in North America, a positive note on cooperation. Canada and Australia joint air traffic control training. Yeah, a quieter but significant development yesterday during Exercise Talisman Sabre down in Australia. 27 Royal Canadian Air Force controllers got operational endorsements using a mobile tower. And this is a first, Canadian controllers getting certified by a partner nation other than the U.S. It boosts interoperability, reduces reliance on just domestic training, good for alliance building.
Okay, before we move on, just a quick note for you listening. This deep dive is powered by NextSight. They're a global investigations and intelligence leader. Their OSINT platform, Site Connect, is actually what drives these reports. It lets you tailor intelligence to what matters most to you. From really complex cross-border investigations to high-level corporate intel, NextSight combines speed, precision, and crucially verified accuracy. You can learn more at www.next-site.com. All right, let's shift focus now to a much starker reality. Climate-driven disasters and how vulnerable our infrastructure is. The floods in Asia were devastating yesterday.
They really were. A grim picture. In China's Inner Mongolia, torrential rain since the 16th. Tragically, it led to 13 deaths confirmed, 5 people still missing. And more rain is forecast. Rivers overflowed, emergency teams deployed, red alerts. A major crisis there.
And Pakistan, sadly facing an even bigger ongoing challenge with the monsoon.
The situation in Pakistan is just dire. On August 20th alone, at least 21 more deaths from the floods. That brings the weekly toll to over 400, and since the monsoon started, over 750 people lost. Yesterday's deaths were mainly in Gilgit-Baltistan and Karachi. Local resources are completely overwhelmed. We're seeing landslides, massive urban flooding, houses collapsing, critical bridges washed away. Rescue teams are struggling, schools are closed in many areas. It's a catastrophe.
How are people reacting on the ground, especially with this seeming relentless frequency? Is there disaster fatigue setting in?
Absolutely, you hit it. Looking at social media here, say, platforms like TikTok, Facebook, flooded with videos of submerged Karachi streets. Comments show sympathy, yes, but also anger. Demands for better drainage, for climate adaptation measures, a lot of accusations of political negligence, lack of preparedness. The hashtag Pray for Pakistan trended. Influencers called for donations. But underneath, you sense this fatalistic sentiment, definitely a sense of disaster fatigue. It's becoming tragically normalized.
And seeing this happen concurrently in China and Pakistan.
Yeah.
It just hammers home the global scale of climate risk, doesn't it? And how it's now directly pushing its way onto diplomatic agendas way beyond just environmental talks.
Exactly. And what's really insightful, connecting the dots here, is seeing how these immediate awful events directly shape high-level policy discussions. You see it in Africa's push for climate health financing. You heard it in the calls for resilient infrastructure at the TICAD summit. These aren't just isolated humanitarian crises anymore. They're forcing governments globally to prioritize spending on resilience. It directly links disaster response to development funding now. But here's the kicker, the most maybe alarming insight from yesterday. The market reaction. Minimal. It signals this dangerous disconnect. The real human cost isn't translating into financial risk assessment yet. It implies this huge systemic vulnerability that investors seem to be ignoring or maybe just not equipped to price in. A potential time bomb, really.
And just a reminder as you listen, NextSight's capabilities go way beyond just reporting like this. They're OSINT specialists, they're investigators, they connect dots across borders, validate sources, and turn this kind of fragmented information into actionable strategy. Okay, let's pivot now to the Middle East. Geopolitical frictions, global engagements. Always a complex dance. A key diplomatic flashpoint yesterday. The UK condemning an Israeli settlement plan.
That's right. The UK Foreign Secretary David Lammy used X, formerly Twitter, to make a strong statement. He warned that Israel's E1 settlement plan would be a flagrant breach of international law, said it would effectively divide the West Bank, really undermine any hope for a two-state solution. We didn't see an immediate official Israeli response noted in the brief. Online reaction, based on hearsay, predictably polarized. Israeli commentators cried meddling. Palestinian activists praised the UK's stance using hashtag #StopE1. Some dismissed it as bias, but many international voices called for sticking to international law.
And contrasting with that diplomatic heat, reports of a U.S.-led counterterrorism raid in Syria. How solid are those reports?
Well, Syrian state media reported it. The coalition itself hasn't confirmed it yet, so that's an important caveat. The report claims a U.S.-led raid overnight, August 19th, 20th, killed an Iraqi Islamic State leader, Salah Newman, in Atme, Idlib province. Newman was allegedly mobilizing sleeper cells, so taking him out, if confirmed, would be a significant disruption to IS networks. Witnesses did report explosions, special forces activity in the area, which adds some weight. But, yeah, still needs official verification. B2 confidence reflects that uncertainty.
Got it. And then a totally different kind of engagement, China holding cooperation talks with Afghanistan. What's the angle there?
Yeah, quite the contrast. China's Foreign Minister Wang Yi was in Kabul August 19th, 20th. Discussions focused on expanding mining projects. China's very interested in Afghanistan's lithium, copper, iron reserves. Big potential there. They also talked about integrating Afghanistan into the Belt and Road Initiative. So it's a clear geoeconomic play, secure access to critical minerals, and try to stabilize the region to protect supply chains. Afghanistan's location is key.
So when you put these pieces together, the UK condemnation, the US raid, the Chinese economic talks, what's the underlying pattern? How are powers operating in these contested zones?
If you connect these threads, what emerges, particularly in the Middle East context, is this. Well, this pragmatic, maybe even cynical approach by major powers. They seem to be leveraging instability to secure resources while also engaging in stabilization efforts that serve their own interests, like integrating volatile regions into their strategic supply chains. The insight: economic goals and security actions aren't separate tracks anymore. They're deeply intertwined, even in high-risk areas. It's about influence and resources.
Okay, let's shift gears completely. Tech innovation versus market jitters. The Intelligent Asia Expo in Taiwan sounded huge, full of optimism.
Oh, it's massive. Opened yesterday, August 20th, runs through the 23rd in Taipei. Over 1,000 companies, 16 countries represented. We're talking 4,500 booths showcasing AI automation, robotics, laser systems, net zero manufacturing, the works, and the projections are staggering. Taiwan's AI robotics sector alone is forecast to top 1 trillion new Taiwan dollars. That's nearly 30 billion euros. Huge potential.
Wow, that sounds incredibly positive. What was the vibe online among tech folks?
Pure enthusiasm, mostly. Based on hearsay, social media was buzzing, people posting pictures of robotic arms, AI demos, praising Taiwan's innovation leadership. There was even one viral post contrasting the busy expo floor with gloomy crypto price charts, kind of highlighting the split between physical tech advances and digital asset volatility. So yeah, very upbeat sentiment. Lots of robots will save manufacturing type comments.
But speaking of those gloomy charts, the crypto market took a hit yesterday too, right? A real counterpoint.
It really did. On the 20th, Bitcoin dropped about 3%. Ether fell even more, around 5.6%. Analysts were busy debating, is this just the market maturing, consolidating, or is momentum fading? Seems like weak risk appetite generally, plus nervousness about what the U.S. Federal Reserve might signal, triggered a sell-off. You know, those broader macro headwinds hitting tech stocks also impacted crypto.
That's such a fascinating contrast. AI and robotics promising tangible long-term gains, while crypto faces this immediate uncertainty. What does that divergence tell you?
I think it indicates a growing investor preference, maybe a flight to quality towards tangible innovation, things you can see and touch, real-world applications, productivity gains from AI, robotics. That seems to be attracting and holding investment better right now, despite the digital asset swings. Investors might be looking for that demonstrable physical impact in an uncertain climate. And related to that positive tech vibe, the surveillance firm Vivotech won an award yesterday, HR Asia's best companies to work for in Asia. They highlighted Vivotech's investment in talent and its AI strategy. So, good signs for the human side of the industry, too.
Let's turn to Africa now, a really important proactive effort around climate health financing. Building resilience seems key.
Absolutely. On August 20th, there was a key regional workshop in Nairobi. It brought together African governments, the Africa Enterprise Challenge Fund, AECF, and the WHO. Their specific goal: design innovative financing tools. They want to mobilize hundreds of millions in public and private money, specifically for health systems that are under direct threat from climate change impacts. Very forward-looking, very necessary.
And another major development for Africa, concluding yesterday, the TICAD summit. Sounds like Japan made a significant commitment.
Yes, the Tokyo International Conference on African Development, TICAD, wrapped up on the 20th. Japan's Prime Minister, Shigeru Ishiba, offered loans up to $5.5 billion US dollars, and notably pledged to train 30,000 African AI experts. That's a big number. Japan also floated this idea of an economic zone, linking the Indian Ocean to Africa via free trade corridors, shows strategic interest. And UN Secretary General Guterres was there, really emphasizing the need for greater African representation in global governance bodies. That was a strong theme.
Interesting. What was the chatter online among Africans about Japan's big pledge? Was it seen purely positively?
Well, the hearsay suggests a pretty robust and nuanced debate on African Twitter. Some users definitely viewed that $5.5 billion pledge with suspicion, concerns about neocolonial influence, debt traps, But others were more welcoming, cautiously optimistic about the opportunities, especially for port upgrades and the AI training component. Hashtag TICAD 2025 was trending regionally, and yeah, strong calls echoing Guterres' point, demanding better African voices, more representation on the global stage.
Okay, let's round things out with some additional global intelligence nuggets. A quick tour, starting in Europe.
Right, Europe. The EU's top diplomat yesterday called for global efforts against violence based on religion or belief, emphasized protecting holy sites, promoting dialogue.
And on Ukraine.
EU leaders had a virtual conference with President Zelensky, discussed priorities, stopping Russian attacks, prisoner exchanges, security guarantees, and they're actively looking at a potential 19th sanctions package against Russia.
Market-wise in Europe.
Reuters polled analysts yesterday. They expect modest gains for the ICE 600 index, maybe reaching 570 by year-end. That's about a 4% rise. But they flagged a risk. Potential U.S. tariffs could squeeze European company profits by maybe 5%, so a potential headwind there.
Okay, shifting to Latin America.
A Panamanian environmentalist wrote an opinion piece criticizing the draft Global Plastics Treaty. The argument was it ignores human rights, indigenous voices, called on churches to push for environmental justice, a just transition.
And cultural heritage.
Venezuela and ICCROM, that's the international body for preserving cultural property, they revitalized cooperation yesterday. Focus on involving indigenous groups and women in preservation efforts.
And something catching my eye, women's football.
Yeah, this is big. Mexican player Lisbeth Ovalle is apparently set for a world record transfer fee for a woman player. Moving to a U.S. NWSL club, value estimated between $1.5 and $2 million US dollars. The deal, reported yesterday, even includes a 10% sell-on clause, really signals surging investment and professionalization in the women's game.
Fascinating. Okay, Oceania Pacific wrap-up.
Australia's health minister warned about the cost growth of their national disability insurance scheme, the NDIS. It's slowing, down from 22% growth to 10%, but needs to hit 8% to be sustainable. Reforms focusing on early intervention, pricing, and fraud are planned.
And a final snapshot from the Pacific Islands yesterday.
Quick hits. Vanuatu declared a whooping cough outbreak. West Papua launched a food program. PNG dealing with flood-damaged crops. Fiji considering a social media ban for under-16s. And Fiji's tourism saw a nice 7.1% year-on-year rise. Resilience there.
All right. That wraps up our deep dive into the Wednesday, August 20th, 2025 Intelligence Brief. Brought to you today, Thursday, August 21st. Hey, don't forget to follow the deep dive on YouTube and Spotify. And let us know what you think, like, comment, and share it with someone who'd find it useful. Your engagement really helps us out.
And maybe a final thought for you to chew on as you head towards the weekend. We've seen these stark contrasts today, right? Climate crises hitting hard, AI racing ahead, complex power plays. Given all that, what new forms of global cooperation or maybe competition do you foresee really starting to emerge? What unforeseen dynamics might actually define the next 10 years? Something to ponder.
Stay informed, everyone. Stay sharp. And let's glide into Friday with a big, clearer insight.